Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Frank Corrado from TSN, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Langley Chrysler will pick up, service, and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action. Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. Leafs lose in overtime last night, 4-3. Game 7, Leafs and Lightning Saturday in Toronto. Here to talk about that and much more from TSN 1050 Radio in Toronto. A fifth-round draft pick of the Canucks in 2011, former Canucks defenseman Frank Corrado. How are you, sir?
I'm good. It must be a pretty slow news day in Vancouver if you guys want to talk about the Leafs.
You would not believe how much time we spend talking about the Leafs, Frank. Some of it is positive. A lot of it is negative.
Yeah.
But we thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It's hilarious because when I got drafted by Vancouver, so many people I would meet in Vancouver like, hey, isn't it weird, like, being from Toronto coming to Vancouver now? Like, you must hate us. I'm like, no, like, we don't really even think of you guys. But
yes.
apparently there's a lot of hate the other way. So
What you just said there is the problem is that the Toronto people don't think about Vancouver people at all.
Yeah, we know that.
We could go on and on about that. Hey, Frank, Leafs, to me and to a lot of people, they seem faster. They seem more hungry, less tired than the Lightning. But here we are. There's going to be a Game 7. How come?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with what you said there. I think 5-on-5, the Leafs have been the better team. And the games the Leafs have won, they're noticeably faster. You can tell that they're smothering Tampa. And Tampa's not a slow team by any sense. They're a pretty quick team. They got some guys that can move around. But I think Toronto, when they play with that pace, they execute at a pretty fast pace. They don't give Tampa as much time and space as they would like. So, I think for the most part, Toronto's made the game pretty hard on the big boys. Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, Palat, like 5-on-5. When Toronto's playing really well, those guys don't seem to have the time and space that they would like. I think where Toronto's been burned in this series is the mistakes, right? And you play against a team like Tampa, who's won 2 cups in a row. They're a great team, but they're opportunistic and they understand how to win. And that's a big part of the playoffs, right? Like, you're not going to get the bevy of chances that you would on a Tuesday night in New Jersey in the regular season in the playoffs. That's just not the reality, right? So the chances that you do get, you need to make the other team pay. And I think that's what Tampa's done a really good job with. I think Toronto's probably had some undisciplined play that has come back to bite them at times in this series. So, when you look at the series on the whole, I think Toronto has been they've stepped up to the plate. Like, they've stepped up to the plate. They've played the way that they needed to play in order to A, keep themselves in the series, but to B, win the series. And when it comes to the playoffs, it's such a fine line. Like, between winning and losing, it's one play in the second period that can come back and bite you. We kind of saw a little bit of that last night with the Alex Kerfoot giveaway in the first period. And that's just like, that stuff can't happen in the playoffs. Like, it just can't. There's no room for error when that kind of stuff happens. He's obviously been a good player for the Leafs all season, but you know what? I just, on the whole, the series it's been weird with all the penalties early on. I think last night was a little bit of a different standard, and we got to see a pretty entertaining game with that.
Hey, Frank, how tense will the Leafs be tomorrow? How tense will the entire city of Toronto be tomorrow? And can the Leafs make that tension work for them?
Yeah, I you know what? It's tough to get a read on that because so you go into Tampa with a Game 6 and all your big boys score. And I think that's been the biggest improvement, right, is the fact that the big guys, the big 4 guys have contributed a lot throughout the course of this series. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Morgan Riley's been a big factor as well. So the recipe was right for them to win last night. Everything that needed to happen kind of did happen. And you walk away with that saying, okay, we lost this game and everyone who was supposed to score, everyone who was supposed to contribute did. So where do you go from here? Like, can we do it again that quick on Saturday night? Well, you're going to have to, right? Because, and you look at things that might not have happened yet in a series. The glaring one for me is like, has Andrei Vasilevsky really stolen a game in this series? Like, has he stood on his head and stolen a game? And he hasn't. And now you're going to go into a Game 7 50-50 with that kind of hanging over your head. And if you're the Leafs, you can't think about that, obviously. But as a fan or a viewer of the game, that's the first one that sticks out. Because even for Tampa, right, like Braden Point, I think he got his second goal of the series last night. Okay, so now he's factored in, Stamkos, Kucherov, all these guys have factored in. So we're kind of waiting to see, like, what hasn't happened yet. And so, you go into a Game 7, it's 50-50. You got, arguably the best goalie on the planet playing for Tampa Bay. And it's going to be a challenge. Like, it's going to be a big challenge for the Leafs. There's going to be a lot of noise around it, especially today. All the talk shows, all the radio shows, the TV shows, everyone's going to be talking about it. But I don't see why, if the Leafs play 5-on-5 hockey, if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they will give themselves a very realistic chance to win this game. Like, you have to look at it like that if you're the Leafs. You can't start looking at the narratives. You can't start doing the history lesson and we've been here, we've lost, and just, if you're a player in that room right now, forget about any narrative. You have to break it down into just such a micro understanding of, okay, we're going to play 5-on-5, we're going to play fast, and we're going to play discipline. And if we do those things every 5 minutes, throughout the game, we check in, are we doing that? Then you're going to give yourself a very realistic chance to win Game 7 and end, the two-time Stanley Cup champion season.
Frank, look at Matthews and Marner for me. Every year I read disappointment in the playoffs, and these two get hammered pretty good, Matthews, Marner. Do they have to show up big time tomorrow night, these two? Because I got a feeling if it doesn't work out nicely tomorrow for the Leafs, these two are going to get a lot of criticism again.
You know what? I think this year has been different than years past with those guys. They have really led the charge in this playoffs, whereas in years past when they go cold, it seems like they stay cold and they didn't come back around. Like, we talk about Game 5. Well, Game 5, they led the charge big time. Like, they got the party started and they ended the party with Austin Matthews obviously scoring the fourth goal. So I think if they were to lose this game and those guys don't factor in, I think it's going to be, the criticism is going to be, you didn't manage the game properly, you didn't stay disciplined, and it's hard to say you got outgunned, because I think the Leafs have been the better team this year in this round, but the recipe is always going to be this, right? Like, you have your depth players, and it's great when they can contribute, and your depth players might get you a big goal, they might even get you a win in a series, but if you want to win 4 games in a series, it's the leaders that are going to have to do it. And ultimately, they're going to have to do it in that 4th game. Like, you got yourself 75% of the way there, but now it's time. Like, this is the one where this is why you're paid $11 million, because you need to win that 4th game in the first round against Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Do you have a Stanley Cup favorite, Frank?
I thought Colorado was the team to beat. I think in the East it looks a little different than I thought. I kind of had Florida cruise into the finals. I actually think if Toronto gets past Tampa, the path looks pretty good for them. You're looking at the teams in the Metro, and New York hasn't played the way people thought, and Shesterkin, and Pittsburgh has Crosby out. They've got Louis Domingue, spicy pork, in net right now. The Capitals and Florida series has been a little more back and forth than people thought. And, you're watching the series that Toronto's given Tampa, and you start thinking, like, if they can get past this team, there's a realistic chance that they can go deep. But this is the big hurdle right now. You can't look that far ahead. And then in the West, like, I don't know how much conversation you have outside of Colorado. They're dominant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Frank, before I let you go, we do this to everybody who shows up on a Zoom call the way you have today. Thanks for going all out in your Zoom background today. We really appreciate that. Yes.
No problem.
The all white wall. Thanks, Frank.
Frank. If you could see what else is going on in this room, you would have a laugh. So my computer laptop is on a bar stool with my guitar cases and an amplifier. This is like my makeshift kind of Zoom radio remote room. So I'm just moved into a new house, so I haven't really done much extracurricular wise yet in here.
Looks good.
It looks good. So you did go all out there.
Yeah, you did go all out.
Around.
Your agent, Joe Resnick, is watching. He says you're doing a good job.
Joe's the best agent in the game, Joe Resnick.
Right there.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. All the best.
All right. Bye, guys.
Lots of fun tomorrow watching Game 7. Wait, you sucking up to the agents?
The agent just texted me.
That was very weak.
His agent just texted me, said, hey, you got great
So?
Frankie. Go on. So I can't mention it? Come on, man.